Here. Yo, what up? What it is? Now you know there was gonna be no way y'all didn't hear from me today. You already know what time it is. You already know what's going on. You already know it's gonna be a long weekend. Everybody gonna be streaming. It's finna go down. So I was like, yep, let me go ahead and you know, put this work in early. Cause I stayed up, but I think about 1:30 or so. I had to in my night, so to speak. I'm like, oh, I just have to catch it in the morning. Luckily, I'm always pretty good at avoiding social media Monday through Thursday ish, except for ones that have to do with like places where you're not gonna hear about. You get spoiled. Cause like 3 weeks ago, I think I got spoiled, so that's kind of why I didn't do a review. I know I've been kind of like my name states, been kind of lazy about that, but that's over with. Anyway, we're gonna get into 985 today, cause we have a lot of open paths to do some stuff, and we got some information today, some confirmations, some foreshadow. I mean, we got everything in this chapter. It was short, like reading it, but the excitement level was just through the roof. I'm still kind of hyped, and I got to get out and take care of some stuff, so I want to talk about this now. So, 985, of course, cover chapters, not gang time, which is interesting. I know sometimes we get pauses with cover chapters, and I'm hoping the story's over, but we might get two or three more just because remember they are being chased and they're not exactly in a safe location yet. So we'll see how that turns out. Anyway, we need, like I was saying, I can go back to our Columbus doing chores, folding clothes, cleaning this room. I was cool with that. Like that's how tired I was of this. It is what it is though. Give me a nail on the moon, man. Why this man can breathe in space? You know what I mean? Let's get to those. All right. But anyway, we start off with Luffy and Yamato in the beginning of the chapter, which is where it should be. And what's interesting to me, what I've been thinking about is I wonder if Yamato um, had thought Ace was Joy Boy. Because if you had owned the journal for this long and reading it over and over again, I wouldn't be surprised if that was the conclusion she came to. Because remember, Ace went to Wano not with Whitebeard. He went on his own accord. And how he knew how to get to Wano, I have no idea. But there's a lot we still don't know about Ace. And not that I ever disrespected Ace, but I think about projecting him now. When I think about that, because of his connections and his influence, his ability, his charisma, he actually could have ended up being the Pirate King, almost maybe even accidentally, just because having that connection between Wano and the book that if anyone knew existed, like the Gorosei would kill for this book. Like they would, I've no doubt in my mind that they would kill if they knew this book was out there. There's just no, that's something that they take heavy interest in. They wiped out O'Hara because of the fact that they were in the field of academics. There's weapons factories out there that the government don't care about, but yet the people with the library, they're the real threat. So, the power of words, right, and information. So, I'm wondering if that's one of the reasons why she was saying he was stubborn. Maybe she tried to, and I keep saying she because until we get a definitive on where her character is going, I'm just going to keep saying that. And I wonder if she tried to sit Ace down and talk to him about some of the stuff in Owen's journal because when everybody found out about his relation to Roger, when she found out, she was probably like, "Oh snap, that's his son." Wow, maybe I'll meet him one day. You get what I mean? She even tried to leave with him. She even said. So maybe that's part of the stubbornness, her not letting not being able to join him probably put a damper on her dream. And I'm gonna get into that too because she's been a candidate for Straw Hat, obviously. And even more so now because of her statements. But the only problem I see with it, one might be her strength, and I'm gonna get into that. But the other one, she doesn't have her own dream. Her dream is to fulfill somebody else's dream. That's not the same thing. That's to me, it isn't. It's like kind of inherited will, and it's fine if she agrees with everything that Odin was doing, but she kind of doesn't have her own thing. You know what I mean? So I'm wondering if she has something else, maybe this closer situation with Kaio, as in a family aspect, because the series focuses on family all the time. You got Sanji and Germa, Luffy, for obvious reasons with Garp and Dragon, and then his ties to Ace and Sabo as brothers, and the theme of family. Big Mom's dysfunctional family. There's a lot of family themes in the series, so she would fit in by that aspect. And then you got Robin taking Olivia's will to a certain extent. I could see where the pattern falls, but it's just like, I don't know. It's just weird because she wasn't related to him. Like, I understand being inspired by somebody, but I don't know. The way the rest of them are structured, like even with Jinbei and Fishman Tiger, you know what I mean? Part of his will is carried on, but Jinbei does his own thing, He just, same thing with Frankie and Tom, which I'm going to get to that too because of, the ancient weapons actually being brought up. So that's the only thing, that and her strength. And when I say strength, not because she's not strong enough. She's obviously, with the exception of Luffy and the new monster trio plus Luffy, she's stronger than everybody there. And I wouldn't even be surprised if she could compete with Sanji, Zoro, or Jinbei. That wouldn't shock me at all due to her lineage and if she's an actual just pure human, because her horns ain't went nowhere. And I don't think they're for design. So, that opens up a whole nother thing. Not only that, right? Say she's not an ability user. Say she has no devil fruit. And these cuffs. I understand that they may or may not be sea stone because all cuffs and collars are not sea stone. Clearly they're not. But I feel like with Wano being like the home, quote unquote, of sea stone, or where it's heavily abundant, I just feel like most cuffs have some sea stone in them. Because remember, outside of Wappa metal, the poneglyphs, um, and maybe diamond because of Jozu. Those are the hardest materials in the series. And Sea Stone has that, I forgot what it's called, but they brought up in Fishman Island, the starfish dude. Oh man, I can't remember his name. Rasta Beanie starfish dude. I think it was called paraglobin, which is similar to a word myoglobin, which that's a real thing. So I don't know if that has more to do with what messes up devil fruit users, or is that the active component of sea stone that makes it strong? So even if you're not a devil fruit user, it doesn't guarantee that you could break sea stone cuffs. Now, with them being exploding cuffs, I just assume that they're just really strong handcuffs. I don't know how that's going to work. But if you're a character like Yamato, who's been taking beatdowns for Kaido from 20 years, I have to assume your armament hockey has to be your proficiency. So why would you be worried about cuffs blowing up where, I don't know, it's just weird. But yeah, I think maybe she thought Ace was Joy Boy at first and then realized like, oh, your brother might be Joy Boy. You know what I mean? And then just tying things together like the same way we do with the series. She probably read Odin's journal like it was One Piece. So to her, she has all these things, in her head, and she's had years and years of thinking about this and taking the beatings. Let's not forget, no one just takes beatings from Kaido and just they're just okay. It just doesn't work like that. And then with Kaido's strength, remember, he one shot Odin. I already did it, whatever. I'm not even talking about that. Just being strong enough to one shot Odin. And currently, right now, on Onigashima, there's nobody outside of Big Mamu and that is stronger than Odin. So therefore, anybody who's on the island right now at any given point at any time can be one shot and just taken out of the fight immediately. It's not even up for debate. That's not like we've already seen it. So I have to assume her durability is insane. So why would the cuffs be a problem? That's weird to me. I know this isn't Hunter x Hunter, so it's not going to get too technical with that, but it's just kind of odd, right? And then if she has a fruit or not, I just assume she doesn't. And then her name has ties to Orochi because of the folklore of, Yamata no Orochi. If you, there's no way if you follow manga and anime that you haven't seen this mythos brought up. It's in 3 or 4 different series off the top of my head. Hell, I can even go all the way. I'm gonna date myself. Even the old Yu-Gi-Oh days when Spirit Monsters came out, there's a card called, yeah, I think it's Yamato no Orochi. It was a headed snake. It was a spirit monster. I remember. It messed her hand. It was like a hand disruption card, like Morphin Jar. Told you I'm dating myself. But so if that's the case and that's the tie-in, maybe maybe Orochi really is dead. 1% chance. I don't think he's dead. Not just because uh Kaido can't kill him or something like that. Kaido would kill anybody probably, but I think it's just more so that if he was waiting to give her the fruit since he can't eat it, and he has all the zones and the strongest zone in Army, why would you not want the mythical zone fruit? Why would you not want that thing? Orochi can't use it because he's a chump. But we know in the right hands, that's top tier easily. Just on ability alone. Top tier. Easily. At least in my mind, right? It's mythical, so it defies logic. Therefore, Orochi's probably not dead. He's an 8-headed snake. If you cut off one of Orochimaru's head, would he have died? Absolutely not. So I just think it's just another one of those things where um, it's more for impact. Now, whether Kaido knows he's dead or not is a totally different story. And depending on what's going on with King's sword, because at first I thought, I was like, wait, what is it? Why is he holding that like that? Because I've seen King before I paid attention to Kaido. And I'm like, oh, he has a pipe like Sabo now? What's going on with that? And I'm like, oh, duh, that's sheath. I just assumed his sheath was black for whatever reason. But when he cut Orochi down, I'm like, well, ink and blood look the same in black and white paneling. There's no way for you to tell the difference. And then if you think about the fact that Orochi and Kanjuro had the exact same situation in their panels, exact same situation, except for we didn't see Kanjuro get cut, but we've seen him get cut that very same way. And with Orochi always being a step ahead of everybody, there's no way for me to believe that unless Orochi got really complacent having Kaido around, that he didn't think that his fruit was in jeopardy. Now I know he gets cocky at times, popping shots at Cypher Pole and stuff like that, but there's no check for Kaido. The closest thing that I guess you could say maybe is a check to Kaido is the Berry fruit, but Bartolomeo has that now. You know what I mean? So there's no checks for him, and I just wonder with him helping him build factories for weapons and Smile, there's no way that it didn't occur to him that Kaido might try to take his fruit at some point. So maybe he was, and then the tie-in would be feeding it to Orochi, to Yamato, and maybe she doesn't want a devil fruit. Odin didn't have one. I don't want one. You know what I mean? So that and the fact that she's probably not all the way human. Neither is Kaido. Still don't know who her mom is on some Disney type stuff, but you know, um, it would just really put the Straw Hats over the top if she's too broken. And I do understand there will be a power creep after this arc, pretty much to where the supernova are fodder now. And I don't mean they're actual fodder. I mean that is the bottom level of power that we'll probably be dealing with from here on out because we're going to be dealing with just Yonko Admiral, Yonko Admiral, whatever the SSG is. You know what I mean? There's no more scrubs. You're not allowed to be a scrub no more. So I don't think that, you know, like the way that I'm explaining it now, if she doesn't have her fruit, I think it's better she doesn't get Orochi's fruit because to me that increases the chances of her being on the crew. Because I think she'd be strong enough without it. And I just assume, like I said, you know, whatever her actual goal is besides following Odin's will, because it's like one of these things, right? If she helps them on this journey and she tried to go out with Ace, if she completes the journey, then what? So I assume she has something else too that whether it be family closure with Kaido or whatever her um, acceptance in life is, as long as it fits with the goals, it'll work. But you know how Luffy is. You cannot be on the crew if you don't have your own will and you don't have your own dream. All of them have their own dream, even though part of it is inherited will from their mentor or their family member, like in cases with Robin, and to an extent probably Luffy because Garp fought rocks, so that trying to make sure that the strongest evil person in the world does not succeed is part of Luffy's will, whether he's the second coming or third coming of Joy Boy or not. Pause. That you know, it just has to line up. But I'm all for it, man, because one, we need a strong female character. Period. That's just what it is. There's not a lot of them. Even in this chapter, we see, oh, that the old hag. That's the strongest old hag in the world, and it's just Big Mom. Which I don't mean that in a disrespectful way. It's just when did we not know that Big Mom was the strongest female in the series? Like At no point did I ever think that any female was stronger than her. But you need to at least have some that are up there, and it just makes a different dynamic. Anyway, so they're at the execution place. Of course, there's no way they would have just stayed in the attic. Either the Obi-Wan bomb would have popped up out of nowhere because they love to be in the roofs and the attics and stuff like that. They they love the high ground. They play a lot of Call of Duty. It's all high ground for them. But it was just odd to me that I don't know. I'm not buying it. I'm just not buying Orochi and Khandro being dead. Khandro just because there's no closure with Kinemon. Kinemon was the one we were introduced with him with. He's the closest to Khandro, and all of that. So to me, it makes more sense. And like even with Orochi being quote unquote dead, it's just not. There's no drama involved. If you look at all the real actual deaths, except for Pels, because that was kind of dramatic, but the deaths in One Piece usually have drama to them. Even Yasuo's death had drama to it. It wasn't anything casual. These casual deaths don't occur unless you're fodder. Like, so we just assume you're dead. You know what I mean? Like, people say Luffy don't kill nobody, but he's killed a lot of fodder just by accident. You know what I mean? Just breaking buildings and all that other stuff. I'm sure he has plenty of bodies that we just don't quote unquote count as kills. Same with Zoro. All right, Zoro is not Kenshin Nomura, man. He, as we've seen in Wano, there's blood. He's killing people. They're not trying to tell you he's killing people because of the tone of the series, but Zoro probably has the most bodies on the crew besides Robin. Robin probably has a lot of bodies, but she was probably killing scrubs. You know what I mean? So it's just like, this whole, oh, there's no deaths. Get out of here, man. They're not telling you that they're deaths, but, read between the lines. These cats are not surviving. So the fact that there's no drama behind these and their panels they parallel each other, I just assume with Orochi always being a step ahead of the curve, that between the time that Khandro and him reconnected till now, they've had their own plan. I just assume because maybe Orochi was not really cool with the whole Big Mom thing. He just didn't bring it up because you have no way to check Kaido. So it's like, well, there's really nothing for me to say because I can't check him anyway. So I'm gonna just roll with the punches. You know, I just don't believe it. I'm not buying it for a second. Not because Zoro or Hirori or Momo didn't do it. Or even Kinemon. Not even because somebody we want to off them. It's just I just don't see it. And then though, come to think of it, right? Depending on what kind of sword a king has, if Kaido is aware on how to extract devil fruits, um, it could be possible if Orochi is dead, it has more to do with the sword than Kaido, if that makes any sense. Because why didn't he just club him like he do everything else? Like even one of his first, not introductions, but every physical damage we've seen inflicted by Kaido has been with the club. Like I remember way back when we were foreshadowing that, not that Luffy would get one shot, but he was gonna get clapped because when what was the scrub dude? I think it was during the sheep's head situation when the scrub dude was like, "Oh, you boogie loaded. You got to worry about him." And he put his bounty poster on his face and cracked him, and sent him to wherever he sent him to. I'm sure that guy's dead, but you get what I mean. Like there was foreshadowing something sitting there to give you something to think about. And like I said, whether she joins or not is going to be important. I mean, whether she has a fruit or not, it's going to be important for her to if she does join. I just feel like besides Odin's will, she should have her kind of own thing because it's not really her thing. It's just something that she's seen somebody else agreed with and kept it pushing. Which there's nothing wrong with that. If you're something inspires you, right, you go for it. So there's that. And then we see Zeus's, unless she made another one off screen. I assume that's Zeus. So that for me, I kind of like because I didn't like this trend. I didn't like what it looked like the trend was going to be because there's been stuff about Nami taking Big Mom's powers way before, like even before Whole Cake, people were talking about that because she's a witch and Tempo Mirage and all that other stuff. So I really didn't want her to have to. I just didn't want all her power creep to be luck based. You know what I mean? Like we know she's a navigator. She's not a trainer. She's not a fighter. but everybody on the crew knows how to fight a little bit, where they're not just getting washed by civilian scrubs who, besides watching MMA and going to the gym, ain't never fought nobody. So I kind of like it. And Big Mom having all of her main powers intact, besides Kaido, is the scariest thing that you could possibly think about because of her irrationality. Like, even during battle, Kaido is rational. You don't see him just, I know they hyped it up in anime, but when he clapped Luffy, there was no all that yelling. He didn't do none of that. He just speed blitzed him and clapped him real quick. Like, oh, what kind of king did you just say you was gonna be, homie? Ah, nah, we're not doing that. If you're gonna say words like that, you need to be able to back it up in front of me. He's just not having it on the set. So I wouldn't be surprised if he's been grooming Yamato for this situation. That's why she's been in Onigashima her whole life, basically. Where she was born, probably on a boat, who knows, yada yada. But she spent the last 20 years on Onigashima. So in her mind, she's of the people of Wano, which I understand that. So I'm not knocking her for that. I just feel like she should have something else going on besides that. That's all. But yeah, a lot of stuff. Oh, speaking of interesting things, they finally bring up ancient weapons, and I think this is the first time, at least with Kaido, that he actually talks about, I'm going for the One Piece, man. Like, all the stuff you hear him talk about has to do with, I want a big grandiose war, and I wanted to, battle at Marine for a white beard. Like, he wanted to do all this grandiose stuff. Like, even his intro was grandiose. We still don't know if he just happened to be jumping off that building because he knew they were going to be there, or he just didn't have nothing else to do. He was bored. He was on one of his drunk moments, and, you know, Kaido's weird. I like him though. And he's extremely patient. You expect like brute force type characters to be mad aggressive and stuff like that. But what has Kaido been doing the past 20 years? It's just like, oh, let me start my long term portfolio. Yeah, that's what I'll do. And he just sat in Onigashima and just stacked and stacked and stacked and let the interest and dividends, build up for him and kept it moving. But now that he's at a point where he wants to make a big move, he's going for it all the way. But why now? That's the thing in my mind. Why now? I just didn't get. Maybe it was Marineford that really just put it in his head. Hey, I need to just because all the people I fought with and all that we're all getting old. This is finna be a wrap. If I'm gonna do this still, if I still have interest in it, I need to do it now. To the point where he's like, "Well, if I gotta clap Big Mom, not her cheeks, but just clap Big Mom, then I will, But for now, I'll just team up with her." Because I know she has a poneglyph. I have one. Neither one of us can read them. But I wouldn't be surprised if at some point during his lifetime he's had his poneglyph read to him. Because he specifically said ancient weapons. He didn't say anything about navigating to Raft Hell or any of that stuff. He just even the thing like during the Hour of the Legend where we thought we were gonna get Kaido being interested in that, and he's just like, yeah, whatever. I'll just shoot you in the face. Take this 4-5. You know what I mean? Like that's all it was. So I think he had more information that he leads to, you know, leads us on to believe. Because if you need to be able to read the poneglyphs, oh well, I'll just take over Wano. I'll figure it out. You see what I'm saying? No other entity tried that because of the how Wano was perceived, but Kaido was Kaido. So he basically like the bully on the block that you thought was the bully. Somebody from another block down the street, came and showed you who the real bully is. You're just big fish in a small pond. I'm Kaido, man. This world is a small pond to me. There is none of that. So his moves are interesting, and especially because he knew over time that Orochi had ties to the government, and I'm sure he has too, because the government works with people all the time that they're not supposed to, under the guise of whatever, but they do it. We've seen it with the manufacturing of weapons. We've seen it with SAD, right? If it wasn't for the government, more than likely, how long would it have taken before we got Smile Fruits? There's a reason why they kept Judge and Vegapunk and Gangsta Castino. There's a reason for that. Same as thing as O'Hara. Strength only matters so much if you don't have information you don't have the capabilities to put your theories into application. they're almost useless to you. You know, same thing like with people like to spoil other people about the chapter. Like you telling me something, this didn't happen to me, but you know, it happens every week to somebody. Luckily, it didn't happen to me this week. But what is you telling me early? What does that gain me? It doesn't gain anything for anybody. So, you know, people doing stuff too early, it just didn't make any sense. And with Kaido's case, he doesn't have a problem waiting. He just wants the biggest war, possible for whatever reason. I don't understand why he just doesn't fly to space if he wants to die. But then again, maybe Enel proves that you can breathe in space depending on what your abilities are. I didn't want to get into that. But anyway, Kikunoju, whose blade I'm assuming is some cursed blade, which this whole afterlife thing is interesting because I don't think we're going Edo Tensei route, but I want to see the official translation on that title because maybe it leads to something with the sword itself. Like I was stating with King, maybe King's sword has something else going on with it. That's why Kaido used the sword instead. You know, I just don't know if they know about devil fruit transference. I just assume there has to be some awareness of it because how quick, you know, I have to think at the time. Dofi was able to acquire the Mara that Blackbeard isn't the only person that knows how to transfer fruits. He's just the one that maybe is the most active in trying to do so, seeking certain abilities. Maybe there's other characters who are aware of this, like from the underground, like what's his dude, the Oregon dude, Peklo guy. Maybe he knows, you know what I mean? Because all the things surrounding what's going on with devil fruits, it all seems like knife or sword based theorem. You know how you go about that route. So there might be something to that. And what I think next chapter is probably going to focus more on Yamato and Kaido's relationship. I don't think we're going to get anything from Orochi or Kanjuro as far as their current status. I think that might be, we're getting ready to cut away from something else. Not only that, we have to figure out what's going on with the poneglyphs and is anybody going after them? Because, well, Kaido's poneglyph, because Brook already is aware of what's going on, but he can't read it and he wasn't able to. I wonder the thing with Brook's phasing, if he can interact with items while he's in ghost form, spirit form, whatever the case may be. Maybe it might have been something weird, but him or Sanji have to be going for it. We know Robin can't right now because she's with Jinbei and the rest of them on the execution form. So that to me is interesting. Not only that, the ancient weapons finally got brought up again. Who's the two characters that know about ancient weapons? We've been waiting for the Shirahoshi thing to come into play for a minute. And who is always lurking around? Your boy Caribou, right? So that might come into play real quick. And I've always thought about, as far as distance, how far is Wano from Marijois? Because they're both in the New World. Even by Odin's map, it's along, I think, the border. It's along the border. I think it was chapter 961 or 62 where we saw Odin's map. Because I remember trying to figure out why his map looked so different from the rest of the maps in One Piece. Part of it was because it was in the New World. Another part was because every time we get a map, Oda always changes the orientation to screw everybody up. Like, I even remember Tekken having an issue with that like months ago. And, he's the geography dude. He knows what he's talking about as far as that stuff, and he still had an issue with that. So I'm wondering how far, because remember, the Marines are on the move too. They're not chilling, they're doing something. And saying that you're going after the ancient weapons when you know the Marines are recording all your conversations and all that stuff, I just have to assume that whether they want to go there or not, that's where they're going. I don't believe anything Akanu says about that, not just because of the sword stuff and all of that, but I've thought for years now that he possibly could be Front Wano initially. That's one of the reasons, like his old picture of him as a kid, he was holding a sword, and then his name in general. All the other characters have names that kind of correlate to where they might have come from, right? So the Sakazuki Akainu, does that sound like the name of some cat from the East Blue? Probably not, right? So they're probably going somewhere with that. Anyway, um, that's kind of what I think is going down with Tad. Let me know what you think about Yamato joining. You know, what's going on with Yamato's strength, what's going on with Orochi and Conjuro, and whether fruits, all that's going to turn out, and where's X Drake and Hawkins? Because there's more betrayals to come. There's more. If I'm going to take over Onigashima, somebody else has to get betrayed later, too. Him and Big Mom, you can't have them two just hanging out together. It didn't work the first time. Like I said, why would it really work now? You know, I don't think either one necessarily has the upper hand on the other. I just put my money on Kaido just because he's Kaido. But them two fighting just means they're both going to be weakened for when the Marines or Zehaha shows up. So we'll see. Anyway, hope y'all have fun this weekend. You already know what the community's finna be on. Hopefully I get to catch up with some of y'all later, and stay safe out there. Peace.